Welcome to KIT203 ICT Project Management and Modelling. This short video is about tracing requirements and controlling scope. This is the contents of this video: a definition of traceability, some information on the requirements trace matrix, and controlling scope. Here we are on our content map. You can see we're looking at scope management. One means of validating our requirements is through traceability. You need to be able to link your requirements back to its source and forward to the system design. The PMBOK uses the term requirements traceability matrix, but in our school we call it the requirements trace matrix, but it's the same thing. We write the requirements document for the client as part of our contract to what we agree to. We create the requirements trace matrix for the designers, programmers, and testers. The requirements document has a lot of stuff, but not all of the requirements. The RTM identifies what each requirement is. RTMs are usually done in a spreadsheet, and each requirement is identified and numbered and linked back to its origin. Each requirement is classified and a use case is written for all of the requirements that need one. Here's an example of a requirements trace matrix. Entry number is just sequential. Paragraph number indicates where the text came from in the requirements document. The type is a limited set of categories that we'll talk about later. The ones here are software and software constraint types. You may notice that the first one describes the requirement for the software, the second one describes a constraint for the first one. And the use cases. When the type is software, you need to provide a number and a use case of the form actor, action, subject. We'll look more into these in the next few slides. These are the steps that you go through to construct your requirements trace matrix. Start by going through and identifying the statements in the requirements document that are must-haves. Take the whole sentence, copy it and paste it into the column in your spreadsheet. Give it an entry number and record where the paragraph came from. Go through again and extract the nice-to-have statements and record them in the same way. Then go through again and use your expertise to record any derived requirements, requirements that you know will be necessary to do the job based upon the existing requirements. It might be something like we're going to need a back-end database if we're collecting information from a website. These are the types that we're categorizing everything into. The reality is that it's not particularly easy, but it is doable. HW for hardware, SW for software, and remember that if it is SW, it also needs a use case. Nice to haves are usually pretty clearly identified. Duplicates, they take some thinking about, and you also record where they are duplicated from. Software constraints are often really challenging. My advice is if you can't come up with a use case, it's probably a software constraint. The trick is working out what they're a constraint of. A P is a performance requirement, which is often tough, and the DR is a derived requirement based upon what you know you need to fulfill some of the other types. The whole system is represented by a set of use cases. Everything the system does is described by a use case. Each software requirement in the RTM is converted to a use case, so it's very important to get all of the requirements and important to identify all of the software requirements. All the design work from this stage on is based upon the use cases. A use case is of the format who, what they are doing, and to what are they doing it to. Naming conventions, where ## is the sequence number of the requirement being expressed as a use case, the actor, action, and subject are separated by underscores. But as you know, projects will change throughout their course and there will be temptation and need to change the scope. Under the PMBOK, it's important that you manage changes to the scope. You need to be sure that any changes to scope are done through integrated change control. We need to manage the changes when they occur. We call it the variance when we have a difference between what we planned and what actually occurs. Here are some best practices for avoiding scope problems. Keep the scope realistic. Don't make projects so large that they can't be completed. Break large projects down into a series of smaller ones. Involve users in project scope management. Assign key users to the project team and give them ownership of requirements definition and scope verification. Use off-the-shelf hardware and software whenever possible. Many IT people enjoy using the latest and greatest technology, but business needs, not technology trends, must take priority. And follow good project management processes. There are well-defined processes for managing project scope and other aspects of projects. And that's it for this video. We talked about a definition for traceability, some information on the requirements trace matrix, and controlling scope. If you have any questions, please ask, and thanks for listening.